Hello, friends. Welcome to Science Talk. I'm your host, Jim Hassa. I want to bring to your attention a kind of summary of three uh, reports that were all published in the journal Nature Climate Change. So, what do they deal with? They look at extreme drought, extreme fire risk, and how they may double by 2060. Okay, so let's look at the kind of a brief summation of the three and then give you a bit more info. So climate change as we know, is taking place right now. In fact, I think if we really want to drive home the necessity of things, we should be calling it a climate crisis because that's what it is. So the climate crisis threatening a doubling of the impact of extreme drought and fire within a generation, as well as uncovering the influence that of human activities on these growing risks. So, in one study, they found that human numbers exposed to the hazard of extreme drought are likely to double in the decades to come as global heating will basically evaporate the ground, leaving it. We've seen those photos of the very dry ground, all look like baked and broken up into various patterns here, like hexagonal stuff. It will also result in a loss of groundwater as well as a reduction in annual snowfall in areas that would normally receive snow. Another team of researchers says the risk of extreme wildfire could also rise twofold in the next 40 years. In the Mediterranean, Southern Africa, Eastern North America, not to mention Western North America, and the Amazon, right? The Amazon's being clear cut. In those places already severely scorched by frequent fire, Western North America, Equatorial Africa, Southeast Asia, Australia, hazards could rise not just by a little bit, but by 50%. And it really be burning down the place. A third study finds that global temperature increases will shift the patterns of rainfall around the tropics, with the consequent risk to tropical crop harvest and to equatorial ecosystems such as rainforests, savanna. I've done quite a few videos discussing how crop yields are decreasing along with the nutritional value. I've done videos about the changing jet streams and what that means uh, to places that would normally grow crops. For example, in Ukraine, right? Ukraine used to be called the breadbasket of the Soviet Union because there's a lot of wheat fields there. Well, that they're going to, that's an example. They're going to be impacted there. So these studies basically remind us of just how intricate the planetary climate system is and what humans are doing to all of this. So in the first study, in again Nature Climate Change, the researchers looked at the global problem of excuse me, they looked at the simple problem of global terrestrial water storage, all the moistures in the canopies of forest trees, mountain snows and lakes and ice, the lakes, rivers, wetlands, and the soil itself. This stored water is a big player in the patterns of global flooding and drought in the monsoon climates, for example, and the arid lands alike. But so far, according to these researchers, there's been no study of the potential impact climate change, global climate change, will have on these terrestrial water storage. So researchers from the US, China, Japan, and Europe began creating models. And they found that 3% of the planet's people were vulnerable to extreme drought in the time span from 76 to 2005. That proportion could increase to 7% or 8%, or possibly more. More and more people will suffer from extreme droughts if the medium to high level of global warming continues. and water management is maintained in its present state. And that's a statement by Yadu Pokrel, who's an engineer at Michigan State University and the lead researcher. Areas of the southern hemisphere where water scarcity is already a problem will be disproportionately affected. We predict this increase in water scarcity will affect food security, escalate human migration, and conflict. Just like with any species, start fighting over the dwindling resources. What's called intraspecific competition. Australia is a southern hemisphere country that knows about water scarcity. Its wildfires in 2019 broke all records, and the smoke that resulted from that rose to an altitude of 35 kilometers. So, on the basis of a new study, the evidence of a new study also published in Nature Communications, it won't be the last such extreme event. Californian scientists, struck by the scale and intensity of the California fires in 2017 and 18, report that they took a closer look at the way greenhouse gas emissions and human land use change have played into the risk of extreme fire weather. The simple act of setting forests ablaze to clear land for farm use has amplified the risk of extreme blazes in the Amazon and North America by 30% in the last century. Fires create aerosols that could, by absorbing sunlight, help cool the terrain beneath them in some zones, but they could also affect rainfall levels and increase the chances of fire. The nature of such impact varies from place to place. Southeast Asia relies on a monsoon, but aerosols cause so much cooling on land they can actually suppress a monsoon. It's not just whether you have aerosols or not, it's the way the regional climate interacts with aerosols. And that's a statement by Danielle Tuma of the University of California at Santa Barbara. Aerosols, along with other factors, may not only suppress the monsoon, they can shift rain patterns permanently. The tropics, as well, have begun to see this shift going on as well, in addition to even warmer conditions. The footprint of extreme drought and fire is massive. California researchers report in Nature Climate Change that across two-thirds of the globe, the tropical rain belt is likely to shift north over eastern Africa and the Indian Ocean to cause more drought stress in southeastern Africa and Madagascar and intensified flooding in South Asia. In the Western Hemisphere, as the Gulf Stream current and the North Atlantic deep water formation weaken, the rain belt could move south to bring greater drought stress to Central America. And even with the weakening of AMOC and the conveyor belt and so forth, as I've shared with you in recent videos, there's so much heat energy in the upper 1 to 2,000 meters that all that latent heat energy is going to be given off, and the planet is not going to cool down for quite some time. And once again, climate change driven by global heating is at work with other human influences to alter what had, for most of human history, been a stable pattern of climate. Basically, we fuck things up so much that we can no longer depend or rely on a stable climate. And this is going to have drastic consequences. In Asia, projected reductions in aerosol emissions, glacier melting in the Himalayas, and loss of snow cover in northern areas brought on by climate change will cause the atmosphere to heat up faster than in other regions. And that's a statement by James Branderson of the University of California, Irvine, one of the authors of that third study. He continued, "We know the rain belt shifts towards this heating and that its northward movement in the eastern hemisphere is consistent with these expected impacts of climate change." This is just summation. We're basically going to see increased risk to drought, fire, rainfall patterns are going to shift. The effects of aerosols still trying to be ascertained better. Regional, maybe local, regional, perhaps even hemispheric, or or something in between. That could be all determined by air patterns, etc. If you want to learn more about the aerosols, Dr. Guy McPherson has quite a few publications on that topic that you may want to check out. So, with all these things that are factoring in, and we're already seeing them, basically things are going to get worse. That's what all these things are telling us. Increased fire, increased drought, increased intensity of storms, a shift in the rainfall patterns that may basically leave areas that would typically, could be relied on to grow food, not getting enough water. So now you're going to have crop failure, along with all the other factors we have discussed in these videos now for quite some time. Planet continues to heat. Human civilization, human species itself is at continued risk of basically going extinct. And we're basically crapping in our own beds, and we're going to be the cause of our own extinction. We won't have to wait for a rock to come tumbling out of the sky. We are right now causing our own extinction. So, kind of grim news, but just keeping it real, folks. Thank you for your time. Hello, folks. This is Jim here with Science Talk, asking you to please subscribe to my channel and to inform others of my channel and of the work that I do. Please share to social media platforms that you use. Also, as a reminder, don't forget to click the bell so that you know when I load up more videos. Finally, I ask that you support the work that I do by becoming a patron at patreon.com. Details in the description box below. Thank you for your support.